The pronouncement echoed in Julian Thorne's opulent Miami office suite. "Don't worry, nobody will remember your contributions anyway." Those were the words delivered as Eleanor Vance processed the digital severance agreement just finalized. 5 years of demanding work, frequently exceeding 70 hours per week for Apex Innovations, culminated in this dismissal. Vance maintained a stoic demeanor throughout the brief meeting. "I appreciate the opportunity," Vance stated formally, rising from her chair. This marked the end of her tenure as senior systems engineer. Mere moments before, Julian Thorne, Apex's high-profile CEO, remained focused on his laptop screen, seemingly unfazed. The Miami sunlight streaming through the expansive windows, a recent addition following a successful $10 million Series A funding round, highlighted his meticulously styled hair. That $10 million investment was secured in part to scale the very company Vance had been instrumental in building from its inception. As she walked through the open-plan office, she passed rows of engineers, none aware that this was her final day. Several were actively working with programming code authored by Vance, code developed during numerous overnight sessions. This code formed the essential foundation of Apex Innovations' flagship product. This foundational work included the unique system architecture Vance designed during the company's early days, operating out of a Stark warehouse facility downtown, a time when essentials like air conditioning were unaffordable luxuries. Records show she continued development work even under those challenging physical conditions. "Heading out early?" inquired Marcus, a relatively recent hire reportedly unaware of the termination proceedings. "Something like that," Vance replied curtly. She swiftly collected her minimal personal effects: a desk plant, a framed photograph featuring relatives, and a branded coffee mug. The sum total of her personal workspace items after 5 years fit within a single canvas tote bag, a stark contrast to the extensive intellectual capital she invested in Apex Innovations. While awaiting the elevator, a specific detail became clear. Thorne's comment regarding the legacy of her contributions was not only dismissive, but demonstrably inaccurate. Every component of the system architecture carried her distinct design signature. The existing documentation utilized a unique structural format and shorthand notation developed by Vance for personal efficiency, making it difficult for others to interpret comprehensively. Notably, the creation of a widely accessible, comprehensive system guide, an item listed on her internal task list for 3 years, had been repeatedly postponed due to other assigned urgent priorities. The elevator doors opened, and Vance entered. As they closed, affording a final view of the office space, a critical point emerged. Apex Innovations' leadership appeared to lack full awareness of the operational consequences of her departure. Vance exhibited no overt anger at that specific moment, sources confirm. Instead, she possessed a precise understanding of her work's value and, crucially, the exact location of all original architectural drafts, version history logs, and pertinent intellectual property correspondence files bearing her name. Background reports indicate Vance's career trajectory was influenced by her father's experience. He was an engineer credited with designing a significant battery system innovation in the 1990s. Following his company's public offering, he was reportedly forced out and his name systematically removed from official company histories and press materials. Vance, now 29, had reportedly resolved to avoid a similar fate. She departed Apex Innovations, holding a severance check and a non-disclosure agreement, the terms of which she had meticulously reviewed prior to signing. The executed NDA covered standard corporate confidentiality clauses, but contained no specific language addressing Vance's personalized documentation procedures or the status of digital files she had strategically forwarded to her private legal counsel before entering the termination meeting with Thorne. Sources suggest Vance anticipated this dismissal approximately 3 weeks prior, citing observations of discreet management conversations, closed-door meetings, and Thorne's increased promotion of Troy Bishop, a newly engaged engineering consultant, to company investors. Her actions indicated calculated preparation. Immediately upon leaving the premises, Vance contacted her attorney, Veronica Sterling. "I've been terminated," Vance stated directly. "The stated reason involves bringing in personnel with alternative experience." "I understand," Sterling replied, her tone noted as steady. The severance package consisted of 6 months' salary and a standard NDA, lacking any clauses concerning intellectual property ownership beyond the scope of her original employment contract. "Prudent measures," Sterling was heard remarking. "The documentation you provided appears robust. We should convene tomorrow to analyze the available options." The subsequent day, Vance deviated from her long-standing routine of checking work-related emails and communication platforms. Instead, she rested until 9 a.m., prepared a formal breakfast, and proceeded to Sterling's law offices. Upon arrival, Vance found her submitted files meticulously arranged on Sterling's conference table. The materials included detailed architecture diagrams, system version control logs, numerous internal emails substantiating her specific contributions, and, critically, documented proof establishing Vance as the creator of the proprietary authentication system, a key differentiator for Apex Innovations' product within the competitive market. "You've been meticulous," remarked attorney Veronica Sterling, surveying the extensive documentation spread across her conference table. Sources confirm Vance attributed her detailed record-keeping habits to lessons learned from her father's professional experiences. "Most people don't document like this." When Sterling pressed for Vance's next move regarding the mountain of evidence chronicling 5 years of intensive work, Vance reportedly opted for strategic patience. "Nothing yet," she declared, emphasizing the need for readiness. "But I want to be ready." Sterling nodded, anticipating the inevitable. "They'll come looking for you," the attorney predicted. "Companies like this always do, once they realize what they've lost. And when they do, we'll be prepared." Leaving Sterling's office, Vance reportedly entered a period of calculated calm, her schedule, for the first time in half a decade, entirely under her own control. Exactly 3 weeks following her abrupt dismissal, while Vance was observed at a beachfront cafe reviewing employment opportunities, her phone displayed an incoming call from Gregory Finch, Apex Innovations' Chief Technology Officer. Finch adopted an overly familiar tone, inquiring about Vance's well-being before pivoting to the reason for his call. "The team has been working on the next release," Finch stated, "and they had a few questions about some of your architecture decisions. I was hoping you might have time for a quick consultation." Vance paused, taking a slow sip of her coffee. Consultation was a notable term. "I'm not sure that would be appropriate given the circumstances of my departure," Vance responded evenly. Finch reportedly cleared his throat. "Look, Eleanor, we're willing to compensate you for your time. Julian may have been hasty in his decision." "Hasty," Vance echoed. "Is that what we're calling it?" A brief silence ensued. "The documentation is a bit specialized," Finch offered. Insiders reveal specialized was a significant understatement. Vance's personal shorthand and unique system structure, intentionally complex, had proven utterly impenetrable to the new team led by consultant Victor Klein. "I had documented everything, yes, but in a way that made perfect sense to me and apparently no one else," Vance later confirmed through intermediaries. "I'm afraid I'm quite busy at the moment," Vance stated firmly. "Perhaps Victor, with his extensive experience, can figure it out." Finch attempted to interject, but Vance cut him off. "I wish you all the best, Gregory. Truly." She ended the communication. Almost instantly, a text message arrived from Finch. "We can double your consultation rate. Please reconsider." Vance set the phone down, ignoring the plea. Sources suggest she intended to let Apex management experience the consequences. Later that evening, an urgent email arrived from Leo Martell, a junior engineer Vance had previously mentored. The subject line was stark. "You won't believe this." Martell, known for his loyalty to Vance, provided a concise but alarming update. "Eleanor, everything's falling apart here. Victor can't make sense of your authentication system. 3 clients have reported major issues after the latest deployment. Julian's blaming the engineering team, but everyone knows it's because they can't understand your architecture. Gregory is in full panic mode. Just thought you should know. Miss having you here." Vance absorbed the contents of the email at her kitchen counter. The operational disintegration at Apex Innovations was occurring more rapidly than analysts predicted. While the fallout affected former colleagues, many regarded as competent professionals caught in corporate crossfire, reports indicate Vance's focus sharpened on the undeniable proof of her essential contribution, starkly contrasting Thorne's dismissive farewell remarks. Her phone rang again. It was Veronica Sterling. "I just got a call from Apex Innovations' legal department," Sterling announced. "They want to discuss a consulting arrangement already." The speed of escalation was notable. "Apparently they're having some technical difficulties," Sterling added, her tone heavy with implication. "What do you recommend?" Vance inquired. "I recommend we let them sweat a bit longer," Sterling advised. "The more desperate they get, the better position you'll be in." Ending the call, Vance acknowledged the palpable shift in dynamics. This wasn't about revenge. It was about securing undeniable recognition of her professional value, recognition Apex Innovations now seemed desperate to offer. By the 4th week post-termination, the calls from Apex escalated in frequency and urgency. Finch, Klein, and even back-channel messages from Martell pleaded for assistance. Vance maintained a calculated distance, providing non-committal responses, if any. During this period, she was actively engaged elsewhere, conducting exploratory meetings with 3 rival firms. These were not job interviews, but strategic market assessments to solidify her negotiating leverage. Then, on a Tuesday morning, precisely 1 month after vacating her office, Julian Thorne himself initiated contact. "Eleanor," Thorne began, his voice reportedly struggling to project its customary confidence. "I think we got off on the wrong foot. The board and I have been discussing your departure, and we feel there might have been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding," Vance repeated, her voice deliberately flat. "About what, exactly?" "About your value to the company," Thorne conceded, the admission seemingly forced. "We'd like to bring you back on as a consultant to help with the transition." Vance considered reminding him of his earlier comment. "Nobody will remember your contributions," but strategically held back. The game had changed. Sources reveal Eleanor Vance saw no strategic advantage in revealing her full hand prematurely. "I'm not interested in consulting," she stated unequivocally when contacted by Apex CEO Julian Thorne, adding only a curt, "But I appreciate the offer." This blunt refusal came despite Thorne reportedly pleading for reason, dangling a significant consulting fee, rumored to be a staggering 6-figure sum for just weeks of work, to salvage his rapidly sinking tech firm. Unmoved, Vance reiterated her unavailability, echoing her previous dismissal of CTO Gregory Finch. "I'm quite busy at the moment," she repeated, adding a dismissive, "Best of luck with everything," before terminating the call abruptly, cutting Thorne off mid-plea, insider reports claim. Immediately following this exchange, Vance contacted her legal counsel, Veronica Sterling, relaying Thorne's desperate 6-figure consulting proposition. "They're getting desperate," Sterling observed, initiating a critical assessment of Apex's precarious situation. Vance confirmed she had been monitoring the company's public decline. Apex Innovations' client-facing systems were plagued by significant, widely reported downtime. Their official social media support channels were visibly overwhelmed, struggling to manage a deluge of user complaints. Most damningly, Apex's stock price, which had briefly surged following their recent funding announcement, had cratered, dropping a disastrous 15% in the past week alone. "It's not looking good for them," Vance confirmed to Sterling. "Perfect," Sterling replied, then dropped a bombshell revelation gleaned from confidential sources. "Did you know," Sterling inquired, "that Julian presented your authentication system as his own creation to the investors?" The information, according to those close to Vance, was received with cold shock. Sterling elaborated, citing an informant on the Apex board. Thorne had allegedly fabricated his technical contributions for years, successfully securing millions in investment for his vision by falsely claiming credit for the foundational technology entirely conceived and built by Vance. While Thorne's pattern of behavior made the revelation plausible, sources indicate the direct theft of intellectual credit crossed a significant line for Vance. "What's our next move?" she inquired, her tone reportedly hardening. Sterling advised calculated patience. "We wait one more week. Let the situation deteriorate further. Then we send a formal notification of retained intellectual property rights." When Vance raised potential complications from her employment contract, Sterling delivered another critical legal assessment. The contract covered work performed during employment. However, the unique, custom authentication system, the very core of Apex's product value, had its initial prototype developed by Vance before she joined Apex, entirely on her own time. Undeniable proof existed in the form of dated digital records within a private GitHub repository. Although Vance later adapted and refined this pre-existing system for Apex's specific needs after being hired, a fact she had disclosed to Thorne, who dismissed it as unimportant at the time, Sterling asserted that the foundational intellectual property rights arguably remained Vance's exclusive property. "So we have leverage," Vance stated, the implications becoming clear. "More than leverage," Sterling corrected. "We have a legal claim that could potentially freeze their entire operation if we choose to enforce it." The power dynamic had inverted dramatically. Vance, dismissed just weeks prior, now possessed the means to potentially dismantle Apex Innovations. 5 weeks after Vance's departure, Apex Innovations reached a crisis point. Their stock value plummeted another 20%, devastating investor confidence. Industry forums were rampant with confirmed rumors of major clients terminating contracts. The desperate calls from Apex management abruptly ceased, replaced by an ominous silence. Then came the unexpected visitor. Responding to her doorbell, Vance found Olivia Sterling, no relation to her attorney, the lead investor from Pinnacle Capital, the firm behind the $10 million funding round, standing on her doorstep. "Ms. Vance," Sterling began, her demeanor described as intensely serious, "I apologize for the unexpected visit, but this couldn't wait." Dispensing with formalities once inside, Sterling stated bluntly, "Apex Innovations is in trouble, and I believe you know why." Vance offered a non-committal acknowledgement of reported technical challenges. Sterling fixed Vance with a penetrating gaze. "The authentication system is failing, and nobody can fix it," she declared. "Julian assured us they had redundancies in place for key personnel departures, but that was clearly untrue." Sterling paused, then continued. "What's more concerning is that we've discovered discrepancies in what we were told about the company's technical leadership. Julian presented himself as the architectural visionary, with you as merely an implementer of his ideas." A bitter laugh reportedly escaped Vance. "Is that what he told you?" Sterling confirmed it was. "But our technical advisors have reviewed the situation," Sterling revealed, "and it's become apparent that you were the true architect of the system. Julian misrepresented your role to secure funding." Vance took a measured breath. "I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed," she replied. As am I, Sterling stated grimly. Pinnacle invested $10 million based partly on false premises. That's why I'm here, Ms. Vance. The board has called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. Julian doesn't know I'm meeting with you, but I believe your presence at this meeting is essential. This was not a negotiation. It was a summons to a secret, high-stakes boardroom showdown. What exactly are you proposing? Vance inquired, understanding the gravity of the invitation. Olivia Sterling laid out her demand. Expose the truth. Help us understand what we're dealing with, she urged Vance, promising the recognition Apex Innovations CEO Julian Thorne had denied her. Your contributions will be properly acknowledged, Sterling pledged, representing the concerned investors. Vance, however, cited legal counsel. I appreciate the offer, Ms. Sterling, she stated formally, referencing advice against direct engagement with Apex Innovations without proper legal representation and safeguards in place. Sterling, reportedly unsurprised by this cautious approach, countered swiftly, "What if we include your attorney in the meeting?" This isn't about cutting deals in back rooms. It's about transparency. The investors need to know the truth. The proposal presented a high-stakes opportunity. A direct confrontation with Apex's powerful board, the very individuals holding the company's purse strings and future. I'll need to consult my attorney, Vance concluded the conversation. Sterling confirmed the critical meeting time. 10 a.m. tomorrow. I hope to see you there, she stated before departing. Immediately following Sterling's departure, Vance conferred with her lawyer, Veronica Sterling, no relation to the investor. An interesting development, the attorney noted, acknowledging the accelerated timeline but recognizing its strategic potential. Potentially advantageous, she added. Attending puts you in a position of strength, not desperation, Veronica advised. Regarding their planned legal offensive, the formal notification asserting Vance's intellectual property rights, she recommended immediate action. Send it tonight, before the meeting. They need to know your legal standing when you walk into that room. Vance agreed. Veronica Sterling dispatched the formal notification immediately via certified channels to Apex Innovations' legal department. The stage was irrevocably set for a dramatic boardroom showdown. Sources close to Vance insist the objective wasn't petty revenge, but absolute professional vindication and the correction of the corporate record. Thorne had attempted to erase her legacy. The next day, Vance planned to rewrite the company history, permanently and publicly. The Apex Innovations headquarters appeared superficially unchanged from Vance's perspective 6 weeks prior. Yet the atmosphere inside was described by witnesses as electric, with underlying tension. Flanked by her attorney, Veronica Sterling, Vance strode through the reception area, reportedly turning heads and drawing hushed whispers as they proceeded towards the main conference room, the designated site of the impending confrontation. Inside, the tension was confirmed by observers as palpable. Seated around the imposing polished wood conference table were the Apex board members. Olivia Sterling from Pinnacle Capital, 3 other key investors including Victor Martel of Magnitude Holdings, and the company's assembled executive leadership team. Julian Thorne presided at the head of the table, his trademark confident demeanor visibly absent, replaced by a strained expression. Chief Technology Officer Gregory Finch appeared distressed and sleep-deprived, sources noted. Ms. Vance, thank you for joining us, Olivia Sterling stated formally, rising slightly to acknowledge their arrival and also gesturing towards Vance's counsel. And this must be your attorney, Ms. Sterling. That's correct, Veronica Sterling replied smoothly, placing her briefcase firmly on the table with deliberate emphasis. We received your invitation and are here in good faith, she declared, before dropping the first bombshell of the meeting. However, I must inform the board that we delivered a formal notification of retained intellectual property rights concerning the core authentication system to Apex Innovations' legal counsel late last night. Thorne's face reportedly flushed with anger. This is absurd, he countered forcefully, directing his comments towards Vance. You signed an employment contract. All work product belongs to Apex. I am fully aware of the contract's contents, Vance retorted calmly, her voice steady as she delivered the devastating counterpunch. The specific authentication system architecture in question, the core IP, was initially developed before my employment at Apex Innovations commenced. I possess irrefutable time-stamped digital proof, including the original GitHub repository documenting its creation. Attention within the room immediately shifted. Victor Martell of Magnitude Holdings, a prominent silver-haired investor known for his sharp questioning, leaned forward, demanding answers directly from the CEO. Is this true, Julian? Were you aware of this pre-existing IP when Ms. Vance joined the company? Thorne's expression reportedly tightened further as he attempted damage control, his voice strained. Ms. Vance is making misleading claims. Any preliminary code she might have possessed was insignificant. The substantial development, the valuable work occurred entirely on company time and resources. Vance calmly retrieved her laptop from her bag and connected it to the large conference room display monitor. With the board's permission, she requested formally, I'd like to present concrete evidence supporting my claim. Olivia Sterling nodded consent. Vance then projected the damning evidence onto the main display for all board members to see. The specific GitHub repository, clearly showing file creation dates and commit histories predating her Apex employment agreement by several months. This was followed by archived copies of early internal emails exchanged directly between Vance and Thorne, explicitly documenting her disclosure to him about bringing this pre-existing authentication system architecture into the company for potential adaptation. Furthermore, Veronica Sterling interjected, directing the board's attention pointedly to the content of the displayed emails, you will note Mr. Thorne explicitly acknowledged Ms. Vance's prior work in these communications. Crucially, however, he failed at any point to secure any formal, separate transfer or assignment of those specific pre-existing intellectual property rights beyond the standard stipulations of the employment agreement, which, as established legal precedent confirms, does not cover pre-existing independently created work brought into the company by an employee. A stunned silence reportedly fell over the boardroom as the investors exchanged uneasy, significant glances. Thorne shifted uncomfortably in his high-backed chair, visibly trapped by the unfolding documented evidence. There's more, Vance announced, her voice remaining level as she advanced to the final damning exhibit. Digital copies of slides taken directly from the very investor presentation decks used by Thorne and his team to secure the crucial $10 million Series A funding round led by Pinnacle Capital. These materials, she explained, addressing the investors directly, presented to you during your due diligence, highlight this specific authentication system as a core competitive advantage and key technological asset for Apex Innovations. Yet, she paused for emphasis, my name, the system's actual architect, is conspicuously absent from any credits or technical acknowledgments. Credit, Vance concluded firmly, was falsely attributed elsewhere. Investor Victor Martell of Magnitude Holdings reportedly removed his glasses, visibly disturbed by the revelations. Sources confirm Martell directly challenged CEO Julian Thorne. Julian, you represented yourself as the technical visionary behind these critical systems. Thorne desperately attempted to maintain the facade, insisting he merely supervised their development. But Eleanor Vance, the actual architect, immediately shot back with documented proof, supervision is not creation. She reportedly added, substantiated by internal records shown earlier, that Thorne's supervision primarily consisted of setting unrealistic project deadlines while simultaneously taking public and private credit for the resulting technical achievements. In a stunning turn that shifted the room's dynamics, Apex CTO Gregory Finch, hitherto silent during the confrontation, decisively broke ranks with Thorne. Clearing his throat, Finch provided critical testimony confirming Vance's indispensable role. "I can confirm Eleanor was the principal architect of the authentication system. Without her direct involvement, we cannot maintain it properly," referencing the severe operational difficulties and client-facing system failures that had plagued Apex Innovations during the preceding 6 weeks, as widely reported. Thorne reportedly shot Finch a venomous glare, but the CTO's confession irrefutably damaged Thorne's credibility. Investor suspicion towards the CEO solidified instantly, observers noted. When pressed by another board member regarding her specific objectives, Vance deferred to her attorney, Veronica Sterling. Sterling articulated Vance's position clearly. Her client held no intention of destroying Apex Innovations, a company whose core product she was instrumental in building. However, Vance required, non-negotiably, proper public recognition for her foundational contributions, appropriate financial compensation for the unauthorized use of her pre-existing intellectual property, and contractual guarantees against any future misrepresentation of her work by the company. When Thorne defiantly challenged the consequences should these terms be rejected, Sterling delivered the chilling legal ultimatum. Then the formal notification of retained IP rights stands. Apex Innovations will be legally enjoined from utilizing the core authentication system, an action that would effectively render their flagship product non-functional and destroy their market viability almost overnight. The stark reality permeated the boardroom. The entire multi-million-dollar valuation of Apex Innovations, their recently secured $10 million funding, and their fundamental business model now hinged entirely on the decisions of the very engineer Thorne had summarily dismissed weeks earlier. Vance held the key to their corporate survival. The tense emergency board meeting stretched for 3 grueling hours, insiders report, as the full scope of the situation was debated. Thorne's defense and authority reportedly crumbled under the weight of the presented evidence and corroborating testimony. Following a tense private recess where the board members deliberated options without the executive team present, lead investor Olivia Sterling reconvened the meeting, her tone described as shifting to one of decisive command. "After careful consideration, the board has made several decisions," she announced, immediately delivering the first major resolution. "We are initiating an immediate leadership change." Addressing Thorne directly, Sterling cited the confirmation of serious misrepresentations regarding intellectual property and technical leadership under his tenure. Thorne, described by witnesses as visibly pale and shocked, protested vehemently, "You can't be serious. I built this company from nothing." Investor Victor Martell retorted sharply, "With Eleanor's technology, Julian." "A fact you deliberately concealed from this board and your investors," Sterling continued, outlining Vance's stunning elevation and the board's proposed resolution. "Second, we are offering Eleanor Vance a senior executive position, specifically Chief Technology Officer, complete with a significant equity compensation package and full formal recognition for her past and ongoing contributions. Furthermore, Sterling stated, Apex proposes a formal licensing agreement for the authentication system IP with structured royalty payments to Ms. Vance based on future revenue derived directly from its use. Vance and her attorney exchanged brief, confirming glances. The offer addressed nearly all their stipulated requirements. And finally, Sterling concluded, "We are requiring Apex Innovations to issue a formal public correction regarding the development history of the company's core technology, explicitly acknowledging Ms. Vance's role as the principal architect." Thorne erupted, standing abruptly. "This is a strategic mistake. You are handing control of this company over to someone who is effectively holding it hostage." "No, Julian," Vance countered calmly, her voice steady. "I am not holding the company hostage. I am simply ensuring that the documented truth is recognized and respected." Victor Martell nodded firmly. "The board's decision is final. Julian, you have the option to accept a significantly reduced role as a non-operational strategic advisor, or you can sever ties with Apex Innovations entirely. Thorne reportedly scanned the faces around the table, searching desperately for any sign of support, but finding none. Without uttering another word, he turned and stormed out of the conference room, the door slamming shut behind him in a final impotent display of fury. In the ensuing silence, sources close to Vance reported her feeling profound vindication, not rooted in revenge, but in the achievement of objective justice and professional restoration. Fast forward 3 months. Eleanor Vance, firmly installed in a senior leadership role confirmed as Chief Technology Officer, stood addressing Apex Innovations staff and selected tech industry journalists at company headquarters. The company, reports indicate, had undergone a significant operational and cultural transformation under the new leadership structure. Today marks an important milestone, Vance began, announcing the successful release of a new platform update. We're not just improving functionality, we're rebuilding this company on a foundation of transparency and collaborative innovation. The once contentious authentication system, the center of the recent corporate crisis, is now managed and enhanced by a fully credited engineering team. Critically comprehensive accessible documentation has been implemented, ensuring, as Vance stated, that Apex Innovations will never again be dangerously dependent on the undocumented knowledge of a single individual. Following the widely reported company transformation announcement, Pinnacle Capital's Olivia Sterling was observed conferring privately with Apex Innovations' newly installed CTO, Eleanor Vance. Sterling conveyed unequivocal investor satisfaction, sources confirm. The investors are impressed with this turnaround, Sterling stated, citing dramatic metric improvements. User complaints have plummeted by a staggering 87%, and we're already witnessing former clients previously lost during the crisis returning to the platform. Vance reportedly attributed the success to collaborative effort, a statement consistent with her new leadership style. It's a team effort, she replied. Sterling, however, emphasized Vance's singular impact. True, but your leadership has been the undeniable catalyst for this recovery. Sterling then shifted the conversation to the disgraced former CEO, Julian Thorne. By the way, she inquired, have you heard any updates regarding Julian? Vance indicated she had not. Sterling confirmed Thorne had rejected the board's offer of a diminished advisory role, opting instead for a complete departure from Apex Innovations. He's attempting to launch another startup, Sterling revealed, adding a crucial detail highlighting his diminished standing. But reports indicate he's encountering significant difficulty securing venture capital funding. Word travels fast in this industry, she concluded pointedly, implying Thorne's reputation was now severely tarnished following the public exposure of his actions at Apex. Vance offered a brief neutral comment regarding lessons learned. Sterling concurred, adding cryptically, though some lessons inevitably come at a higher cost than others. Later that same day, an unexpected communication arrived, a concise email directly from Julian Thorne himself. The message contained a brief, direct apology. Eleanor, Thorne wrote, I owe you an apology. I acknowledge I should have valued your significant contributions instead of actively attempting to diminish them. Apex Innovations is demonstrably better positioned under your leadership. Julian. Vance reportedly contemplated the message at her executive desk before composing a similarly brief and formal reply. Julian. Her response read, Thank you for the apology. I wish you success in your future endeavors. Sometimes the most valuable lessons are indeed the most painful ones. Eleanor. Sources close to the situation indicate Vance's response was not about forgiveness, but about the final, undeniable acknowledgement of the factual record, a truth she had fought relentlessly to establish and had now decisively secured.